And we're in. Welcome back to the Hoops Temple podcast. Join with me first, Nate, as always, but special guest Kofie. How are you, man?
I'm doing great, man. A nice chill Sunday, can't complain. How are you guys?
Doing
Dude, I got
fantastic. Thank you.
power back. I was. I know you're a Pistons guy, right, Kofi?
Yes, I am. I am.
But you're not from Michigan.
Nope.
Okay. I was thinking you were a Michigan guy. I was like, man, we got hit with some tornadoes. I've got tornadoes twice in my life, and I've been without power for like the last 3 days. It's just been
Really? Oh
been a
man.
day, and then
I so
came
so
on.
I'm a southerner. I grew up in North Carolina. I currently live in LA. So I grew up on like hurricane stuff. Like not
Oh
like
gosh.
but North Carolina we had like a couple of like big memorable hurricanes and stuff, but it's not as much as like the Floridas, the new like the Louisiana style. And then last week I was like I wasn't the go-to person for my friends about like what do we do about Hurricane Hillary or something like that, but I was like, guys, this is don't go outside, please. Like we can't please
Don't try.
don't I saw TikToks of people playing in like the storm water and I was like, please, oh no, don't. That's just the one thing you're not supposed to do.
Oh God.
I gotta say, Nate is also drafting a fantasy football team right now.
Yes.
Multitasking to the max. You can't miss a fantasy football draft. I tell my girlfriend when those drafts are, I'm not available. We're not going out. Can't go on dates. I'm not free that day. I have a team to pick.
Well, it
I
was.
oh no, go
Sorry.
ahead.
It was supposed to be at 4, and then it was like, well, we don't have power. All right, we'll push till next week. And then everyone's power kind of ticks back on. We're like, all right, let's scramble, let's do it. And then just got thrust into this. And I have the number one pick in a 2 QB league, the 12-man 2 QB. Yeah, I see that face. That's how I felt when it was first announced.
I
So
don't think I've ever done a 2 QB league. That's interesting to me. That's
it's
How many people
there's
are in it,
already
Nate?
12 of us, and I think we've already picked
Hey,
6 quarterbacks in the first
yeah,
round.
12
yeah.
is 12 is perfect. I think 12 is the perfect like for a fantasy league. I feel like once you get to like 14 and 16, the waiver stuff gets a little bit more like desolate,
Yeah,
you know.
we
I'm
did.
currently running a massive 14 team dynasty league with huge
Wow.
benches. I picked up Romeo Dobbs yesterday. It was a really big deal. Really big deal. Just breaking the waiver wire for sure. But Kofi, I gotta say, your videos are fantastic. Your content's great. We're all big fans. But the fumble dimension is some of my favorite stuff on the internet. I think the We Killed Basketball video belongs in the Library of Congress. Like it's classic
Dude,
stuff.
thanks. I appreciate you. I was so nervous making that first video for a couple of reasons. One, I had just recently moved to New York at the time. I'm in LA now, but I had recently moved from DC to New York because SB Nation has two offices. They have the DC office, which is usually SB Nation and then Vox.com, like usually splits that office. And then the New York office was all the other like verticals. And that's where all the video stuff was, like the video studios. So I had just recently moved from being on the social media team to working with John's team. And that is a video that's based off of an article that John made years before that called NBA Y2K. And since John and I like we came up with the premise for the show. I was like, why not have a great first video in terms of like get people familiar with the kind of stuff that we would be doing, and then like people would like be able to, and that's like my first video on the SB Nation YouTube channel because and that was nerve wracking for a while because I didn't know how I was going to be received by John Boy's fans. You know, I had no idea. I was like, oh man, if this turns out to be less than because John Boyce has never missed content wise in his career, right? If I was the first miss and I'm on that, I'm cooked, right? As a as a
For
debut,
sure.
but I don't think I hadn't worked harder on a video. I was such a perfectionist for that entire video because I was like, I have to have this strong debut and let's keep it going, you know.
It's such an awesome concept. And I remember the article. The article is hysterical. And I remember crying
Yeah.
laughing at watching that happen. But I I mean, years ago, I'm sure when I saw that video, I remade that, and I went into 2K16 and I made the draft classes with all the horrible players and rebuilt it, and it was so much fun, and it's something people should try just at least once just to see it. I ended up with Miles Turner at the end as the last
Really?
player. He was the last player alive, and he averaged, I think it was like 40 points and 90 rebounds. It was a blast, but yeah.
Oh man, it's so fun. The thing I like about the series is that the show ideas are like anyone with so much too much time on their hands can do the video idea. But you'll, no matter what I do, you'll get a different result. That's what I think is the cool part about that kind of video, where it's like, hey, if someone does the same kind of video, I've had people try to do, not try to do, I've had people do videos like this, and people like tag me and be like, oh, it's a fumble dimension. I'm like, no, it's not. This idea is fun. Like, go do it. Like, I want to see what happens in your universe, in your world, and what happens in your sim, because that's like a cool part of the storytelling kind of thing. So I'm always like happy to see those kind of videos, those kind of experiments, and keeping sports video game content fresh, because Lord knows we have to do it ourselves. So
Absolutely, absolutely, and I really appreciate that positive outlook. And you're massive into the sports video gaming and all the old 2Ks and stuff. And for a long time, I collected those as well back in on the PS. I still have a PS3 that functions and PS3 controllers and onto the PS2 and whatnot. And but I gotta admit, and this is an embarrassing thing to admit in front of both of you, I play 2K16 every day. I
that's
still play that game. That's
that's
the
fine.
only 2K I play, and I will never move on.
You just stopped there. I mean, that's totally fair. I pop in a 2K10 all the time
That's
just to
great.
do it.
It's a great game.
Man.
Yeah.
I play the new ones, and I bought the new ones. I buy them every time, and I play for a bit, and I'm like, I just can't. I can't. There's something about it. It's like, think of that era. It's pre KD Warriors. Kobe's still in the league. Duncan's still in the league. Garnett's still in the league. I can build whatever rosters I want. I have my own imaginary leagues and my own creative rosters that it's a new experience every day.
Yeah,
I think
and that's the thing. I went to a retro video game store yesterday, spent $140 and bought like 20 games. And it's like Madden 2002, like NBA Live 2002, and the back of the disc for NBA Live 2002 is just like new franchise mode. I was like, "Oh my god, I was like, "Wow, look how far we've come. It's been 20 plus years." And like they just birthed a whole bunch of like, I think that in like they birthed a whole generation that just like loves the fantasy GM aspect, the sandbox aspect of sports games. And like, as an only child, I didn't have any like siblings or anything. Like, that was what I would do. Is I would do I was a big fantasy draft for whatever 2K, whatever an NBA Live we were playing. I was like, okay, I'm gonna get this team. I'm gonna draft like all 6'10" players that could shoot and see what happens. And they just go on and on from there.
I was about to pick on you guys, but then I was like, oh yeah, I still have NBA Courtside 2 for the N64 that I'll boot up every once in a blue moon, because it's got Vince Carter and T-Mac on the Raptors together. It's like a 90, it's a fantastic game.
That's the console I don't have. And I'm just
Oh,
like, there are certain consoles that escaped me, and like I never grew up on them. I never played them, because I think my first console I got was when I was like 8 or 9, and I didn't have like any older siblings where it's like, oh, here,
mm,
have my NES, have my N64, have my whatever. And whenever I see N64, I'm like, maybe I'll do it one day. Like, it's
do it. Pull the trigger. Everything is broken, but in the best way. Like,
I like the control. I just look at the controller. I'm like,
yeah,
oh, I would not have a
yeah.
fun time. But like,
What's wrong with the
Controls your time.
three-handled controller? What's wrong with that?
You play with a friend.
Just multitasking.
yeah,
Do you guys have a favorite 2K My Career?
I think it's 2K10. I think that's why I go
Okay.
back to 2K10 a lot. The reason why is because that I feel like everything was earned. Because in NBA 2K10, my career, you started in summer league, and you were basically a 40 overall. And if you weren't good, it wasn't like you're like the newer 2Ks, like you're just congratulations, you're on an NBA team.
Mm.
immediately. But on the older 2K10s, you would go to the D League. Like you
The
would just
D
be
League.
there. Yeah, back in the former, but you would go there. You'd be on the Fort Wayne Mad Ants playing point guard and trying to get up to the, but by the time at the end of the season, if you get promoted to the NBA, it feels earned. It feels like you do all the drills. There's no microtransaction shortcut. Everything feel like you were actually putting in hours doing mid-range basketball drills and trying to be the best player, and that was what was so fascinating to me about it, for sure.
I totally get that. My favorite, and I haven't played them recently, I'll be honest, but the 2K14 my career, what I liked about that one is I felt like with time, and the same thing you're saying, with time, I could get my player to like a 90 overall just off of playing the game. Where now I feel like I boot it up and I'll put a few weeks in and I'm like, I am a 75 overall. Like I'm not going anywhere. Like I see how
No.
much VC would cost to become a 90, and I'm like, that's never happening. I make 200 VC a game or something. I'm not getting to that point, but I feel like you could just play 2K14. Also, they had the glitchy half spin. If you post someone up and then you did the spin, you could dunk on anybody. And I think like 14-year-old me was fucking into that. It's like,
Uh,
hell yeah, I actually don't have to be good at this.
and they had like the great moves that like were cheesable, but nobody was complaining that much. I feel like they were like, oh, this is just fun, but then it got to like the my park courts and all of that, and it's like, oh, this is cheesable. This is not fun gameplay anymore. you know
For sure. But moving on from the NBA 2K to real life basketball, Nate, you live in Michigan. You go to Pistons games. Kofi, you are a Pistons fan, but where does that Pistons fandom start for you? Because you said earlier, not from Michigan.
So, my mom is a chemical engineer professor, but she's also a public speaker. And she would always travel around and just like whenever he had a tradition, whatever, wherever she was, she would get me either a hat or a shirt or like some memorabilia of like the sports team that's in town. So that's why I am a Mets, Bengals, Pistons fan. I would just like
Jeez, dude. Are
you
you all
get
right? Oh
yeah,
my
well, I'm
god.
all over the
It's kind of
place.
brutal too.
Oh yeah, it's brutal. It's way more fun though, honestly. I think it's way more fun to root for perennially bad teams because when they're good, then it's like, oh, we earned this.
Yeah.
Um, but I think the first memorabilia was just like either a Ben Wallace shirt or something Ben Wallace, and I was like, oh, I'm in. So that was it because neither of my parents like were NBA fans or anything. My dad immigrated from Ghana when he was 18, and then he would just like root for whatever team he was living in at the time. And then, but neither of them like played basketball or like grew up like watching like professional sports like that. So I had to like figure that out on my own. So Detroit it was, and we're still here.
What year did you get into the Pistons? Like you said, Ben, but is this later stages, Ben, or did you get to enjoy the championship?
I got to enjoy the championship. I
Okay.
had the Lakers back when so I was VCRing 'cause I didn't have cable, but I would be able to like we had a TV that you could VCR and record the TV stuff on the VCR, and that's how I taught myself how to play basketball. Was I would like have these games. It would be like the
Hmm.
Kings Lakers series I have on VCR because what I would do is I would be like, okay, I want to play basketball, so I would like watch the moves and just try to do what they do. So yeah, I was able to watch the classic because that's my favorite NBA on the ABC era.
Hmm.
Actually, like that's my the score bug, the intro music and all of that. I love all of that. So I was able to watch the championship, and then I didn't know that those don't come around that often. You just had no idea. You're just like, oh, this is fun. Can't wait to try again or do it again. And no, that's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a rough little drought. Unfortunately, my family moved to Michigan that year. My parents met
Mm,
going to MSU, so like we've got deep Michigan roots.
yeah.
But we'd moved out to California, Pasadena, and I became a Lakers fan. We moved to Indiana right before the 2000 finals. That was great timing to move to that state. It's like, we beat you. Then we
Yeah.
moved to Lansing, Michigan. in 03. So it's like, oh great, we're here. Hey, finals again. Oh no, we lost this one. I'm the new kid that's a Lakers fan, and now I'm in the bad place.
It's been quite the drought for the Pistons since then, but after winning the 04 one, I'm sure like, oh man, this is great. Can't wait to win some more. We'll collect some more championships, but it's been tough. But just looking at the state of the Pistons now, and I wanted to focus on, I'm a Kings fan. Looking at Pistons, those familiar with the Pistons, how'd you feel heading into the last year's draft? Looking at Keegan Murray, looking at Jaden Ivey, really looking at that lottery not going the Pistons' way. What's going through your head?
I think for me, the fact that we had Cade made me feel so much better about whoever. 'Cause I feel like Cade is a player where I was like, it's rare to like for me, as a Pistons fan, it hadn't been a time until like we drafted Cade where I was like looking at the rest of the draft and like being like number 5 pick or whatever pick we were. I was like, oh, I can see anybody playing and fitting with Cade. And I think that that's such a great and like new feeling to have, as just like I didn't feel like slighted, be like, oh, the 5th pick or whatever. I was like, okay, Keegan Murray, cool. Jaden Ivey, cool. I can see them both. I can see it both. And it was better. It was good getting that number 1 pick finally, because the Pistons would just like refuse to just like hit the full reset for a while and just get like the 8 to 12 range. And it was good seeing like a player that, and I'm so excited for Cade's upcoming season, but it was so excited to like see a player, and I'm like, oh, I'm at ease because like I can see Cade and I can see Cade and Ivy, I can see Keegan Murray and all that. But I think the draft worked out well for both teams, so I'm not like complaining.
Were you heartbroken to not have the lottery luck this year? Well, the Pistons had
Uh,
the worst
it was
record.
we deserved. I was like, oh, there's too much good happening right now. Like I couldn't see it. Like you know when you go to the lottery like and you can like see him holding up the number. I was like, I can't see it this year. I'm sorry. Rip Hamilton's there. I don't know. Or was it Ben Wallace or Rip Hamilton? No, it was Rip. I think it was Rip this year that like
Yeah, I think
showed
so.
up, and I was like, oh, we got Ben Wallace like the year we got number 1. I was like, where's Ben? What no. Like lottery luck is so funny when it's like all those people that are like, oh, this person's here, we're cooked. So that was like a fun thing. But I was like Wembenyama and Cade just like felt too good to be true, and I was like, this doesn't feel. I
I,
don't buy it. Right? You're like,
I
this
don't
is too
know.
much.
I felt like you guys almost deserved it. Like, I mean, going back, you guys got Sekou Demboya, French. You got Killian Hayes, French. Felt like you guys were preparing. You're like, all right, we got this French guy coming down. We're gonna bring in some of his countrymen, make
We
sure that we've
played it.
got.
We had a game in France this season, I think.
Yeah,
I
you
was
guys
like,
were prepping.
shame. It was like, yeah, we were doing the decoration. I was like, you can change the team name for all I care. Like the Detroit Victors, man. I kept tweeting at Wembenyama just like jokes. I was like, what jersey number do you wear? Every time the Pistons just get waxed, I was like, yo, what jersey number do you want, bro?
Make it happen.
Make it happen. I'll make it myself. Thread and needles, man.
For real.
In the off season, me and Nate make our top 100 players heading into this current season. We did the top 50 recently. We had Cade at 43. We had him closer to 30 last season before a pretty crushing injury. He's right behind Banchero, but he's like creeping up on DeMar DeRozan. You seem to be very, very excited about Cade Cunningham. Maybe we're not hesitant for the long run, but just this next season. What do you see in Cade that's so exciting? And for Nate, the same question.
I think the thing about Cade that I see is that I see a lot of. I call Cade Luca Light all the time, like free trial Luca, because it's not the same. But you see like some parts of the gameplay where it's like, oh, look at Cade, like just give Cade the ball, let him make the right play, like make him right decisions. And I see that a lot, and I think that his like passing is underrated in some circles, and I feel like people haven't seen Cade in a while because of the injury. And like also the Detroit Pistons are not the most visible NBA team. So I feel like even if like that like just matched on top of each other is just like what I'm excited for, like the comeback. You see the I saw him working out with the Team USA runs, the off season runs. And I know that I'm not going to take those and be like, see guys, see this is what. But it's just really cool to see him back on the floor, healthy. Hopefully he's worked on the jumper a little bit. And I think that Cade is a player that he definitely just makes everybody around him better. And I'm so excited for the Cade to Duran, the chemistry, Cade to Duran chemistry. And like, it's cool to be excited about Detroit basketball again. That's all. And then Aswar Osser. I think it's Osser. I
Sir?
keep
Yeah.
Sir. Yeah, sir.
Thompson.
Yeah, Thompson. Yeah. I'm so excited for that. I'm excited for Sasser. I'm excited for like there's just so much to be like. I'm like, yes, fun basketball. It's like cool. I'm over the moon.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird comparison, but I always kind of feel like Cade has a little bit of Darren Williams to his game. Like Darren was shorter, but he had like the stockier guard. I liked how he drove and attacked, and I don't know that Cade's quite shown that level of passing yet, like elite point guard passing, but I think he can get
Yeah.
there. And
I,
I'm just excited to see what he's going to bring this next year. Hopefully, he's fully healthy, and the team kind of fits. We've got a good guard rotation between him, Ivy, and then kind of wing with Sir. How are you feeling about the bigs? I mean, Jalen Duran, excited?
I'm
Marvin
excited about
Bagley,
Jalen.
not?
I'm excited about Jalen Duran. Dude, the log jam, man. I don't know. It's so weird because it's like, okay, Stewart gets the extension. Okay, we have Duran, we have Wiseman, we have Bagley, and I'm like, what? I'm like, first of all, give Duran. Duran is my first priority and will always be my first priority. That is a grown man, and that dude's like 20, just manhandling everybody. Like he has good chemistry with Cade. It seems, and so he's my first priority. After that, I don't know. Like Stewart has made definite strides as like a shooter, and I feel like if he gets to become that like stretch four and not like a I'm not asking for much, but I'm asking for like, hey, maybe just so stretch the floor a little bit.
Yeah.
I like a little floor spacing with my fours. Um, Between Bagley and Wiseman, I don't know, man. It's just like I have the agenda where I'm like, Wiseman's a good player. Like, but then I'm like, but he gets in the way of if he gets in the way of Duran, I'm not gonna be happy about that. So I feel like finding that right balance because there's just a whole lot of potential among that, but it's just like tough because I'm like, we're not doing the Greg Monroe, Andre Drummond, Josh Smith thing again. I will turn off my TV. I did not like that. That is the worst. That I think that era was just so sad to me. I was just like, dude, we can't. like I'm just like, not again.
I definitely had more questions about that era later on, but I wanted to touch on the Bagley piece because as a Kings fan that's been broken and beaten so many times, that was like the peak of my sadness about that kind of stuff because Luca's sitting right there. I was so high on Luca, you could have gotten a contact high just hanging out with me. And then when we took Bagley, I went to the first summer league game. He dunked on Mo Wagner. Everything was great. The attitude and the shitty basketball ended up being the end of him. And when he got traded to the Pistons, so many TikTok comments were telling me that he looks good on the Pistons and he's going to figure it out. He's actually kind of good now. Is he any good or is he still just as bad as I remember?
That's the thing. It's just like you see with all of these like Pistons, like with Wiseman, with Bagley, you see a flash. You see like a flash in the pan, but it's not like a consistent ride. It's like, oh, up, 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 down, up, 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 down, And but for me, I will always believe as long as they're on my team, I will always be like, hey, this is my guy. I've seen the good. I can believe in the good. I whatever. But again, Marvin Bagley has like the defensive issues, and that kind of thing. And I don't.
I think it's
I
great that
just want
he's
to. I
on
just
the
want to.
Pistons now.
I do. I just want the team to play like I just want the basket, like I want the offense to just look fluid. That's basically it. I don't want there to be like much, like if it gets to Bagley and then he holds on to the ball and the offense stalls. I don't want any offense like stallers. So I hope that like that gets out of the way. And I feel like Bagley and sometimes Wiseman does that too. You're just like, okay, is this a good offensive possession? I'm not sure. But we're also in the let's figure it, like hope they figure it out mode, because we're still in like the Wiseman some reps phase. And I think with Bagley, we know what we can get right now at this point, but I always will have that optimism be like, oh, dude, you were a number 2 pick for a reason. People saw something in you. I hope that we can get that out of you. But if not, we have Duran and Stewart, I guess. So
Yeah. It's always good
I
to
think
take a gamble on some of those guys. I mean, today sometimes it doesn't pan out, but you saw the talent there at one point with them. Everyone was excited. If it's just a situational thing, you can try to revive it. It's picking up things cheap. It's TikTok furniture flipping. Let's buy that 70s cabinet and, you know, refurbish it.
I
it was
like
the
the
right
I
thing to do, though, for Detroit to pick up someone like Bagley. I thought it was great because he can make mistakes on a bad team, but in Sacramento, we're like actually trying to make the playoffs that year. Like we were good enough to be in that conversation. It's like, oh my god, like please, Marvin, stay in front of one guy one time. Watching him post up, I had like my hands in my face. Like we literally are running post ups. Like it's 2006. I can't believe like this guy's our second overall pick. He's just so slow footed, and I hope he makes all those mistakes and develops and all that. But yeah,
that was the Luke Walton years, yeah.
yeah, I suffered through that and him Bagley, and I had like 6 brain cells between the two of them, and it was a mess.
How much do you think it was like just Luke Walton versus like Bagley? I feel like the Pistons are. I love what they're doing, like buying low on all of these like high, because that's like the best way. Because like we're not going to get the big free agents. This is the best way to like. It's like bargain bin hunting, bargain bin shopping.
Could have been
But
Walden. It could have been part of it. I didn't like him. I booed him at every game I went to. My dad always said he'd be like, "No, they're saying Luke, like Luke," and I'm like, "No, they are not." I'm booing him. We're all booing them. Like he's not popular. I couldn't tell you the direct thing, but honestly, I think if anything, Walton wanted Bagley not to suck so much and have a better attitude, and Bagley wanted to suck and have a shitty attitude. And when that's the impasse, it's kind of tough. You almost have to get rid of both parties, and that's what we did. But we won the trade. We won the trade because Trey Lyles is actually pretty good.
I can't hate on that. Yeah, I wanted you guys to win that Warriors series so bad, dude.
Thank you, thank you. I
Oh,
that
you
was
guys
that
play.
was crushing.
You guys play so fun.
Thank you.
Like I just love like how fast you guys. I love fast basketball. That's me to it. I'm like, yes, give me all of
I
that. And
was um, I was at game one. I was at game one of that series, just electric, and my family went to the rest of the series. My dad and brother went to game 7 and got their hearts broken, but
no.
can't win them all.
Mm.
Okay. Okay, but looking at the future, I was gonna say one of my questions was gonna be, are you excited about the state of Pistons basketball? And obviously, the answer to that is very much yes. But have you been excited before? And how did you get your heart broken? Any Stanley Johnson hope? Any KCP dreams of winning?
I was so high on Stanley Johnson. Like I
Yes.
want dude. I as someone that like I grew up watching Ball is Life, the Hoop mixtapes, and Matter Day followed. They documented Stanley Johnson since he was a freshman. Like there was an entire like mixtape where it's him just trying and like it's him going from freshman to senior, and there's like a whole documentary on YouTube where it like showcases like he's working out at 5 a.m. and all. I was like, this is the guy, this is it. And then he had that season in Arizona. I was like, this is still I'm with it, I'm on board. So when we got him at 8, I was like, wow, what a steal. And then, it just doesn't work out. But I feel like some of those times where the Pistons like smoke a draft pick, like it's not 100% on the player. I really feel like I feel like sometimes, 'cause I've been doing this series where you like look at it's like called Draft Picks Gone Bad. I'm like trying to figure out, and sometimes I'll go through like newspaper clippings, or sometimes I'll go through like, oh, there's a new head coach that didn't even want this player, period, and so that's not going to go well. And I feel like Stanley, and we just the development factor. I was like, dang, because I saw the tools. I was like, the tools are here. It's just who's sharpening the tools? Are the tools even being sharpened? But yeah, I was really high on that.
I saw the one you did for Hashim Thabit. That one was great because like,
Hey, did your mic go out?
did it? Can you hear me?
Sounds like you're talking through your computer speakers.
I'll check.
We'll let Nate work on his audio. Did you
Sure
hear
thing.
that too? Just
Yeah.
Okay.
I did. Yeah.
Okay. I was looking at Johnson's rookie year just to see what he's up to, and he's in a really awkward spot. Almost the same kind of for Bagley, which is this is a 44-win Pistons team. They end up getting swept in the first round. It's 44-38, like I said, and you're with Marcus Morris and Tobias Harris and Andre Drummond and Brandon Jennings is still around, and it's like almost kind of good enough where you don't want the rookie playing, but not good enough for like he's learning valuable life lessons.
We've had so many rosters like that. We've had so many rosters like that where it's like we're just like trying to win 38 to 44 games or something, and it's just like I don't know. Because you look at some of these rosters and you're just like, look at all the players that have played for the Pistons and then gone and left somewhere else and then like immediately, like not immediately got better, but I'm like, oh, look at you guys contributing like more winning basketball. That's sick. I wish that was on our squad. It's just like, KCP, Bruce Brown, Luke Kennard is one of the best shooters in the league and all of that. Like they were all on the Pistons, like Spencer Dinwiddie's like fine. Like he was on the Pistons, it's just like funny because it's like the roster construction of the Pistons sometimes is just so awkward year in and year out. That's why I'm glad that we got Cade, because it's like, oh, this player can make it, like he can like smooth out the roster a little bit by just being there. But like watching like Andre Drummond, Brandon Jennings, like all these players like try to figure it out, and then there's no room, like you said, there's no room for the rookies. It's really interesting, and I'm just like every year I'm like, when will we learn? Like we're not gonna, like 44 wins is not gonna do it for anybody. And I feel like it took a long time for us to like be like, hey, we can't do this anymore. Like we can't. This is not sustainable.
Yeah, there was that strong push for a while, the Andre Drummond era, where it's just like, hey, if we can maybe get a piece around him. And I was like, no. The problem is our best player is Andre Drummond. You can't build. Did you ever have faith in Drummond? I know I've got friends that were like, Drummond could be the best center in the league. I was like, no, that's not going to happen.
So there was this one thing, I forget, I think this was a Twitter investigation or a Reddit investigation where someone was like, hey, is Andre Drummond only have all the rebounding stats because he's rebounding his own misses? And that just like snapped. And I was like, dude, oh man, you just ruined Andre Drummond for me permanently. Like it didn't even matter if you were right or wrong. It was just like, now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, yeah, you're averaging like 16, 17, 18 rebounds per game. But how many of those are like you playing like wall ball with the backboard? It's just like, so that like I saw the thing about Andre Drummond also is that I felt like every year Andre Drummond would come back and like the first couple of weeks like try a new thing. Like there was that one year where he just like started shooting threes and we were like, is this a thing now? Okay. All right. That's fine. And every year it'd just be like, okay, never mind. Like it's cool.
I want to imagine you're a rookie. You've worked so hard. You've learned basketball at its purest. You've gone through college. Like you went to Duke or something, Coach K. You get to the Pistons, and it's Andre Drummond post-ups, Brandon Jennings mid-range jumpers, and Josh Smith threes. And you're like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, is this professional basketball? Like, I clearly am like way out of the loop, and all of the good habits you have fall apart.
It's like I feel like whoever was running, if there wasn't like whoever was running the analytics department was just having an awful time. Like because Josh Smith is was one of the best finishers at the rim. Like in like statistically at one point it was like from 0 to 3. There's a I think there's a season where from 0 to 3 feet Josh Smith was like 71%. And I was like, that's great. What percentage is he actually taking there? And it's like, oh, here's the bad news, man. It's like, I'm like, oh, dang, bro. Like those mid-range jumpers and those threes, bro. I'm like, dude, it worked in 2K for a bit, but like when you got to the real basketball, it just wasn't sustainable, man.
While the Warriors were figuring out how to perfect basketball, statistically, analytically, how to run the most perfect team, the Pistons were in another universe, charting up Josh Smith threes. It's interesting, and honestly, on top of that is the Greg Monroe piece. Like they had all these guys, and like he was also there. All these left-handers in one space, but none of them with spacing abilities.
Dude, I will always, as a left-handed basketball player, I'm always like, dude, if you're a left-handed basketball player, there's like odds. Like I love De'Aaron Fox, like just off of the left-handed basketball principle, you know. And like seeing Greg Monroe, I was like, dude, I think there's something there, right? And then, but then you pair him across from Andre Drummond, and I'm like, oh man, and then my thing about Detroit is that I feel like for years and years, I always look at the roster and I'm like, dude, if there's like 2 more shooters, man, that was like for like years on end. I'm like, dude, if only 2 of these guys could like shoot a little bit better, I'd be like,
Just a bit more.
please, just a bit, like
Just a
every
bit.
year.
I want to talk on. Nate, do you have any comments before I move on?
Oh, I was just trying to think. Who's been the best shooter for the Pistons? Like,
Joe
I,
Harris. No, does he have the Pistons?
he was for a hot second, but I
We
don't.
had Kennard for a bit, but I don't
Yeah,
like, but Kennard wasn't
Blake
like,
Griffin?
yeah,
they
that year.
really haven't had like a dead eye guy. I mean, they
Everyone's yeah, just Kennard, and then I think feel like we're missing somebody for
I mean,
sure.
Kentavious Caldwell Pope was a shooter, but it's not. I'm like thinking like a Corver, or a Capono, or
Yeah,
Vladimir. Like some of the guys that like, hey, you just double them. Or not double them, but you can't let them shoot. A JJ Redick, someone whose like whole purpose of basketball playing is
for
to just
sure.
catch and shoot.
Dude, I think the last one's Kennard.
Yeah.
He ended up turning out pretty well, though. I was out on Kennard, and then this revival, and I think he's actually pretty good in the Grizzlies. Another left-hander. And I want to make one more comment on that era. When it happened, I was in on it because for the Josh Smith and Brandon Jennings thing, because they were left-handed. I'm like, they figured it out. No one's gonna stop these guys. They're shooting from the left side. But I want to talk about the good Pistons times ending, because you have this incredible 2000s run. You win titles, you go to all these conference championship games, you're the best team in the East. And in 08, you trade for Allen Iverson. It's Billups and McDyess and another guy who didn't matter. But that's for Iverson. What did you think of that trade at the time?
Well, as someone that was a huge fan of Allen Iverson, like I was 12 or 13. Like I was like, oh yeah, definitely, absolutely. But then I didn't know I didn't know that this was the version of Allen Iverson we were getting, and I was like, oh man, well. And that, as soon as the bill was traded, and like that's why whenever I feel like when LeBron scored like 25 in a row or whatever, like that's when it was over. I was like, okay, fine. That's what I had always been like, okay. People always say that and like show like this is one of the best moments. I'm like, no, I hate this moment, man. This is where it all started I was like, dang.
Yeah.
And then Billups going, I feel like I don't know what the Pistons thought Iverson was going to do, but it's definitely not what they expected, which it is what it is at that point. But
I asked Aaron to put that into the rundown, this question into the rundown, because early high school, we're trying to think when that happened. I was really big on this. I was like, the Pistons need an offensive firepower. This is going to be the punch. And it just, on paper, it seemed like the right idea, but personality-wise, temperament, the leadership that Billups brought and then took with him to Denver was just completely irreplaceable. And it was just such a turning point moment for me as like a sports fan of, ooh, okay, maybe it's more than just skills. It's actually personalities and performance and all of that. That
I think
stuff
it was
actually
also
matters.
I think it was also the thing I'm looking at it, and that was the only year of the Michael Curry era where it was like Flip Saunders had just got done coaching, and then Michael Curry coaches for a year, and then it goes to like John Q, and then the instability just like begins. So I can totally understand why that wasn't gonna just wasn't gonna happen. Basically just
Well, it's the end of the Joe Dumars tenure of general manager, and he got really into per 36 numbers and was like, Charlie Villanueva is going to be the next Tim Duncan because their per 36 and 09 was the same, and Ben Gordon, and just a dark turn.
dude, all of the smoked draft picks.
Yeah,
it's just that era. You're just like, wow.
What a hilarious time for general managers, though, for a guy to be like, no, per 36 numbers. Like, this is the future. It's just as deep as analytics get. There's no true shooting. There's no, like, no, you should shoot these threes or whatever. It's like, nah, if he's out there for 36 minutes, I think he actually has good production. That's as deep as it goes.
It's whenever a new stat gets rolled out, you will see someone buy into it hard. And like that time, unfortunately, was the Pistons general manager, and it just wrecked the
What do
good
you
thing
mean
they had
new
going.
stats per 36?
No.
It's not, you don't need like a NASA scientist to figure that out for you.
I can tell you as a sports fan, per 36 was never talked about until like the early 2010s. Like 09 to like 13 was like, oh man, hey, if we do per 36, Manu's as good as Kobe, and like all of this, people just got really into per 36, and I'm like, it's not how this works.
There's a great Charles Barkley quote, and I don't know if I've ever seen it since, but I saw it on TV, and he was just like, I don't care about per 36. He's not out there for 36 minutes. He's not good enough to play that long. This is stupid.
God. That's the third best Charles Barkley quote I've heard this week. He's just been on a tear of quotes.
He really has.
Did you guys hear his one about France?
No, I heard the one about Curry. The Curry one?
Yeah.
I heard the Curry one. I haven't heard the France one.
So he's on Bill Simmons' podcast, and he's talking about how great it would be if some other country won. He's like, it's not going to be the end of the world if USA doesn't win the FIBA World Championship. You know, it'd be great if some third world country won. Like, can you imagine if France won?
Oh, no.
I don't trust his geography very much.
It gets better because Bill corrects him, and Bill's like, did you just call France a third world country? He's like, oh, my bad. Imagine if Germany won. Just double down.
Like who he play for, except it's just the map of the globe.
Yeah.
Barkley knows these teams for when he played them in the Olympics. He's like, those guys are terrible. Like, this is clearly underdeveloped countries. They're not very good at basketball.
And then not to go on too much of a tangent, but I just finished reading his book. You want to know the best Barkley quote from this book?
What is it?
It's him talking to AC Green, who, you know, is a very devout, religious man. And he goes up to AC and he's like, man, if you think God's so good, why didn't he give you a jump shot?
Yeah. That's the funniest man. That's the funniest man in sports TV, honestly.
Oh yeah,
bar none.
That's good, man. That's really good. A great thing from my brother, actually. My brother Evan, huge fan of your stuff, Kofie, of the secret base stuff. He asked, and this is a quote: what, if any, cultural impacts did the Bobcats have on North Carolina?
Zero.
None at all.
None at all, dude. I lived in Raleigh, so I know that John and I we did a Dorktown documentary on like the people called The People You Pay to Be in Shorts. It's a documentary on the worst the Bobcats 7-win year. And as someone in Raleigh, North Carolina, growing up, I never saw any Bobcats merch. Like, because every NBA fan that was remotely in North Carolina either missed the Hornets or just like was just like you saw the logo of the Bobcats and were like, I'm not getting on board with this. This is horrendous, you know. Also, the thing about North Carolina is that it's such a college basketball state, right? It's such a college basketball state. You have Duke, you have UNC, you have NC State, you have Wake Forest, you have even App State, you know, all of these schools that you're not, if your NBA team isn't good, you have other priorities, right? You know, I'm happy that LaMelo Ball is exciting and that the Charlotte Hornets have the most exciting play-by-play announcer, I feel like. Um, but when the Bobcats, you know, it just wasn't enough to move the needle and they never landed a player, I feel like, enough to like just drive in seats. You know, they would always sell out when Chris Paul went to town because Chris Paul grew up there, you know, when it was like there was a season where the most exciting play came from Steph Curry when he played at Davidson because they also used that court. You know, it was like Steph Curry hitting like the longest like three, and then like LeBron's on the sideline or something like that. I'm like that. This is way more entertaining than anything the Charlotte Bobcats have offered all season. So no cultural. Like I've been looking for a Bobcats jersey actually. So
I do love the Bobcats. Love some Bobcats. Just a quick note. When I was a kid, I thought Gerald Henderson was really good because he had that one dunk where he like threw it in, and I'm like, that guy's crazy athletic. Like, there's something there.
there's a lot of I had a theory on Michael Jordan's like drafting theory where like I think that Michael Jordan for a time was like if you played at Duke or UNC, come to Charlotte. Like he would just draft, like you draft Gerald Henderson, Raymond Felton, maybe Sean. I think Sean May was there. You know,
Yeah.
or it's either he was just like watching the NCAA tournament and was just like, this guy's good. Let's pick him. And it's like not thinking about the NBA game at all, just being like, okay, this dude good, and it just never worked out.
He put a ton of stock in that NCAA tournament. I remember Tyler Hansbrough and like Jordan being all over Tyler.
Name
Where I was like,
myself fucked up again.
again?
Help me out. It's all right. No rush.
Electricity's not been my friend this week.
I'll talk about Psycho T.
I grew up a Duke fan, so Tyler Hansbrough is the college basketball player I hated the most, bar none. But
Yeah.
it's not even close, dude. And I know that Duke has like a lot of hateable characters. You know, you had the Reddick, you had Kyle Singler, Grayson Allen, all that. But dude, Psycho T, man, because he was good all 4 years, bro.
How long does he have to be in the NBA for you to kind of forgive his college hatred? Do you ever get to that point?
Dude, there was the March Madness coverage this year, and he was like on one of the desks, and I was like, oh man, he's back. Yeah, like as and as someone in sports media, it's like all fun and games now, but like the child like Duke fan in me was just remembering. I was like, man, that man was that man never missed a mid-range like turnaround ever, bro. It was unreal for 4 years.
Just haunted you. I feel like someone feels the same way about Drew Timme. I'm not sure who hates Gonzaga, but someone's like, get Drew Timme out of the fucking league. Like, I can't deal with this guy anymore.
The Gonzaga hate is so interesting sometimes because it's like everyone's like, oh, they've never won a championship, oh, whatever. And I'm like, hey man, they get as close as they get. Like a lot of it's the hardest tournament to win a championship. I feel like, you know, it's so tough. The fact that like some of these college coaches have won multiple in like a 68 team tournament now, like I'm not gonna like discount that. Yeah, one game elimination. Like I'm not gonna discount getting to the national championship or getting to the Final Four. Like these are all great runs. I feel like people just don't like Gonzaga sometimes. You know,
I get it. Well, I had one just final quick question for you, and thanks so much for being here. The last question is: you're often in fun places when you record on your TikToks. You're not just in at your house. You're walking around. You're on the beach. You're doing something fun. What's your favorite unconventional recording place?
Probably the lake, I gotta say. I I started doing them because I was in North Carolina, like with visiting my parents, and I I was like, I had all the setup, and I was like, dude, what if I just go outside and record and do all this? What if I change it up? And I feel like the background, I'm someone that always pays attention to like the video mood. I know that I'm not like a yelling sports commentator. I'm not like a oh my god like but if I was doing that and like if I was yelling and there's like piano in the background, it wouldn't flow, right? So I was like, okay, let's do the lake. Let's do some piano music. Let's make sure that we have this calm brand because I am pretty like calm when it comes to just like sports recording and all of that. So the lake was really cool. And then we went to the beach for a day and I was like, let me just bring my equipment there too. Because North Carolina has so many great places to shoot. Like a lot of places have a lot of great places to shoot, but North Carolina, I was like, oh, this is like there are the lakes that I know. There are places in the state that I'm familiar with. That I grew up. I'm like, I can shoot here, I can shoot here, I can shoot here. Versus like LA, I'm like, can I shoot here? I thought it was a good idea. I went to like the Hollywood, like there's a park near like the Hollywood sign. And I thought I was like, yeah, no one would ever think about. And I get there, I'm like, there's like hundreds of people there. I'm like, yeah, I'm an idiot. What am I thinking, bro? Oh
I'll
man.
have to try going outside some of these times. My TikTok light, like the thing illuminating my face, is not one single light, but it's two lights combined hanging on by a nail. It balances precariously in front of me. Listen, they don't sell the one that I like anymore. I'm at a desk. I needed a certain height. They don't sell that one anymore. They're either like
Really?
10 feet tall or they're way too tiny. So I combined the two. Maybe some natural lighting will be good for me. But Kofi, thank you so much for being here. Where can the people find you?
Thanks so much for having me. You can follow me on Twitter at Kofie, Kofie. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel, Kofie Y. And then my Twitch at Kofie Y, TikTok at Kofie Y. And I think that's it. Oh, sorry. I also started up a YouTube channel called Sleepy Sports. It's like my secret YouTube channel. So I have that as well. But yeah.
I'll have to go check that out. Very cool.
Yeah, getting
Thank
the
you so
undercover
much.
scoop.
Thanks for having me again.
Yeah.
Of course. All right, I'm going to end recording. We all got to hang out while it